Hi there, Soul Sisters, how are we all? Welcome to our second video. So I had quite a lot of response to the last one, so today we're going to kind of focus more on sort of indigestion, constipation, whooping cough was one of the other ones that came up.
Oh yeah, I'd forgotten about that one. There was hernia. We're going to cover hernia.
Hiatus hernia. Might even touch a wee bit on cancers because they've been kind of coming up as well. So we'll just get straight into it. I think we'll go with indigestion first because that seems to be the one that's the most popular one.
Yeah, that seems like it.
Yeah.
So the first place, of course, I go to is Annette Noonal. She's like my favourite author, although she's passed away. She's from Australia, and she covers quite a bit. So I always go to her to have a look and see what's going on. But of course we always need to ask what's going on. Like, is it on the left? Is it on the right? You know, we've got to actually ask some questions. Also, what's been uncovering is that we've got to ask, whose is this? Is this mine?
Yeah. Is it yours?
Because I think we carry a lot of energy for other people. And it could be people living with us, people around us, people at work. So we want to make sure that the energy is ours before we question too deeply. But also when it comes to indigestion, like, where is it on the body? So of course, this is in our solar plexus.
Yeah.
So solar plexus is yellow, colors yellow. It's also your power center.
But you'd also have it coming up and down.
Absolutely. So that's through the heart, the heart chakra.
Yeah.
So with your power center, it's the I am.
Yeah.
So normally we need to sort of see what's going on in our world to then say, well, what's happening here? Why are you losing your power? What are you not participate? You know, what are you not allowing? So what Annette says, so there are three main causes. So the one is missed opportunity of not understanding a situation and learning from it, which is really interesting. The second is when your food seems to be sitting on your stomach, you are not understanding what to do or how to do it, when or where or why, just not being able to move on.
Yeah, so feeling like stuck in that as well.
That's exactly. And then number three, not digesting food is not understanding that you need to live for yourself. Yeah. Which again is part of the I am.
Yeah. Because a lot of us live for other people. We don't forget to live for ourselves now, don't we? Yeah.
And I think especially as women, as sisters, like we tend to, you know, we're a lot more empathetic. Yeah. And I think it's just the way that we carry our emotions.
And I suppose that way that's also another reason, because we are more empathetic, that we take on other energy in that as well, or other people's energy.
That's exactly. And I think it's just it's historic. You know, women have always been seen as the you know, the in the home. Looking after everyone, the nurturers, where I think things are changing. You know, we're still the nurturers, we've still got that, but we're stepping up into a lot
stepping
more.
in our power.
Yeah, that's exactly. And the thing is, I think when we're not stepping into our power, so often we like, for me, I hate doing the dishes, right? Like, it drives me nuts, and cleaning the house is just absolutely mad because things are different in South Africa. So now I have to do my own stuff, which is really new, and it's quite irritating. But for me, I've had quite a bit of indigestion lately, which is also then leading to heartburn and things like that. So the whole flow around it is probably my understanding of when should I be doing things, putting it into a plan, that sort of thing. So those are very simple ways to start uncovering what's going on in the body so that you can fix it.
And do you think because a lot of us quite often go along and don't have goals or aims and that, so then it's like, well, what am I doing? You're kind of wandering a bit kind of aimlessly.
And that actually leads on to the heartburn, because often if there's indigestion, the heartburn will come up. And if we look at heartburn is all about fear. So often when you don't have direction, when you look at people around you who all have these goals, or they seem so successful, you start questioning, how successful am I? And then you start getting fearful because you're not as successful, where in actual fact you shouldn't be comparing yourself to anyone either way. It's you and your journey and your life. So if, you know, we're brought up to believe that we should be looking at other people to measure where we are, but that's actually not true. The thing is, there's no right or wrong in the world. There's just choice. And you just need to be accountable for your choice. And that's, you know, if you choose to live with indigestion and heartburn, and you choose not to have goals, that's cool. Just accept it. Because if you don't accept it, the indigestion and heartburn will live there a lot longer. And could start causing other problems, which we don't want. But what I also did is go into my very special crystal Bible as well. And I thought what we might do today is share some crystals that you could carry with you that could help you with these things. Of course, you want to start looking, if it gets really bad and you're not unpacking what's going on, sometimes just ask for help. We're here, as soul sisters, we're all here to help each other. And sometimes, you just need to talk to someone, or someone might have experienced something and they can help you. So don't be scared, ask for help.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've also got, so this is Cassandra Eason. She's amazing. And I just had a wee look this morning just to see what we could do. And the indigestion, of course, the talking around what Annette was saying, there were 3 particular crystals that we could look at.
Yep.
So the one is amber, of course, because it's yellow, which is quite nice. And you could carry that around with you because that's going to talk straight into everything that's happening on the solar plexus. It also suggested an amethyst, right? Which is... amethyst is always a beautiful one. I love my amethyst. It's always with me. But because that's purple, that talks to the crown chakra.
Yeah.
But that would help with the understanding of what's going on.
Yeah.
Rather than actually fixing the thing, but it's to help understand better so that you could fix it. And then the other thing is yellow jasper. So jasper's really grounding.
Yeah.
And again, go for the yellow. You could do the root. You could do red. The red jasper, it's more freely available, I think. But that's.
There's a lot of jaspers out there that are really quite accessible now. So.
Yeah. Well, go on. Go for the yellow then. So that's what we had on indigestion. What do you think? Do you think that's enough for everyone?
Yeah, I think that's good. And then, because then that's going to kind of lead on to then the constipation sort of side of things and that as well. Not letting go of stuff. Again, emotionally and mentally, if you're not letting go of it, it's going to harbour in your bowel and that as well. Yeah. But it'll be interesting to see what Annette's saying.
Let's see what she had to say. We mustn't forget, that's what we're going to look at just now, but all right, what are we looking at? Constipation. So I know that she also always looks at specific areas within the gut that relate to specific relationships or specific things in your life. So like the small intestine, I think is your relationship with your parents, which is always, so that's childhood issues. So often we do see a lot of that, especially as healers. So your large intestines are to do with your outflow wants, and this represents your social area of your life. It's relationships. To be loyal to yourself here is to be generous, open, and relaxed. When you're talking or working with people, when you cannot say what you feel to people, you will suffer from constipation. Yeah. Interesting.
So again, it's just not being able to speak your truth and say what you have to say, because it's getting stuck in your head. Because sometimes throat stuff shows up for that as well, like when you're not speaking your truth and saying what you have to say. So it's interesting that the constipation kind of ties in with that as well, because I suppose there's times where you'll harbour that and hang on to it, so it's not just in there, it's staying in the body's not getting to expel it, whether it's physically by speaking or
that's exactly
movement.
And the thing is that, again, because I'm such a nerd and I like to see what happens with people, but I've seen with children when they get ill, often they get like ear infections, because they don't want to hear, because the parents have been fighting and they don't want to hear the fight. They don't want to acknowledge that their family is not perfect. But often when that's not dealt with correctly, that actually then lives in that child. So if you think back to your childhood, there may have been situations like that you couldn't deal with, and hence the constipation will live with you a lot longer because of that particular issue that came through when you were a kid. The other thing is, she also says a bottling up of what you want to say and not saying it. So that's just the thing. But she goes into quite a bit of detail about diarrhea, diverticulitis, which I know is quite a big thing that can be seriously painful. And it's all emotion, it's all emotional stuff. So that, again, it all sits in our sacral chakra, which is also your point of creation. So I think we've got to be very aware of what are we creating in our lives, or not creating. Are we stuck in our creativity? Often, again, as kids, I think sometimes if you're more creative than your parents can accept, they also sometimes stifle that a little bit. and you can't let go of it, you know, because now you don't know what your creative outlet looks like.
Yep, that's
so
right.
then you bottle it all up instead of releasing it and letting it go to the world, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What we're moving on to now?
Yeah.
Well, we'll look at the
let's look at hernia. Hernia was quite exciting, actually. So for the hernia, Annette had her thing, but I also love using Deb Shapiro, Your Body Speaks Your Mind, which is also really good. And she had quite a lot to say, actually, which I really liked. So a hernia is a weakening. So yes, I am going to read this because I don't know it off pat, right? We've got to go to the people who know more than us, right? A hernia is a weakening in the muscle wall that allows an organ or fatty tissue to move out of position. A hernia occurs when a part of the stomach becomes trapped above the diaphragm and can be caused by exertion or injury. So a hernia indicates a weakening or collapse of psycho or emotional energy, which is also really interesting because that sits in your sacral chakra, right, with your around your belly button. And often because you try to cope with too much at once and collapse under the weight, or you strain to do everything right and therefore push yourself too far, perhaps motivated by guilt or anger, or you feel weakened by inner fears and anxieties, so there are no reserves of personal strength. This is connected to over-anxious thinking patterns and fearful mental states. In the process, your guts spill out. You lose your psychological control, strength, or courage. Which is really interesting.
Yeah.
Also, some boys are born with hernia. So due to the descending of the testicles, very often this clears up in childhood. If it recurs later in life, see if there are any childhood issues coming to the fore or a change in living conditions giving rise to fear or insecurity, which is really interesting, that.
And what about a hiatus hernias, which
Yeah,
is slightly different?
No, that's it.
For a hiatus one,
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a different one for the other one, but we've not touched on that. Interesting.
Yeah, it's really interesting when you start to see how all these things kind of pop up, so to speak.
Or pop out.
Or pop out, yeah.
Oh, sorry about that. If anyone's having, we don't mean to laugh. Again, laughter's good. But again, the crystals I had a look at, you could look at it at aventurine. So I know aventurine comes in all kinds of colors, and you could probably have the green for your heart chakra, but I would recommend yellow again because
you're kind of working that,
that's
area,
it. That's exactly it's related to the solar plexus,
and even like eating foods that are yellow in that as well, because the color really kind of feeds into that kind of chakra as well.
Yeah, it's frequency as well, right? So wear the color, because you're gonna you are going to keep looking at those colors, and that's the frequency that you kind of setting out, The other thing they spoke about was lapis lazuli, which I thought was really interesting.
I wonder if it's the gold that's in the lapis.
I think it must be the gold, but it is quite a beautiful. I do love it as a crystal.
A very powerful one.
Very powerful crystal, but lapis is also for any inflammation. So normally you wouldn't just have a hernia, you probably have
inflammation
and all kinds of other things happening in your gut.
And there probably other kind of bowel related stuff and that going on, where there's inflammation going on in the bowel area and that as well. So it would make sense.
That's exactly. So we thought about that. How are we feeling about that?
Fine, yeah.
Oh, we're going in depth today.
Yeah.
Gosh. And we wanted to touch on whooping cough.
Yeah.
Who's had whooping cough? I didn't even know it was still a thing.
I've actually heard a couple of people.
Have they had it?
Yeah.
Really? That's interesting. So being controlled by someone. So you want to get rid of the emotion of not being your own master.
Which is really interesting, and I think that's interesting when it's kids that get it, because then you can see that the parents being a bit controlling and blah blah blah, so they're coming out with whooping cough. But as adults, I suppose we don't realise maybe where we're getting controlled from.
Yeah, that's exactly.
And
it's interesting because it lives in the lungs. That also ties into asthma.
Yeah.
And I think there's many people who do suffer with asthma because they carry it from childhood. And the one thing that I've always seen with asthma is it's because people are being smothered, which is then you start looking at, if we're looking at whooping cough, maybe there's a bit of smothering there as well, something between a parent and a child. And smothering is not always bad, right? Like it's sometimes they're just overprotective or overcautious, and it's the make sure you're wearing your 20 layers before you leave the house, where the child's just like, I'm fine, I just need 2, So I think there's a lot of that can come out, and also because it's in the chest, it would be how are we breathing? Is the pain breathing in? So are we battling to breathe in life? Or is the pain on the out breath, which is, are we battling to give life?
Yeah.
So these are very easy concepts to deal with, I think. Like, I often just keep asking questions about them.
And I think the thing is knowing is one. Sometimes when you understand and you can then unpack, like what you're saying, the issues around what your condition is, then that sometimes is enough. But sometimes you do need a wee bit of help with sort of energy work and that to shift energy, because sometimes it's the energy that's stuck.
Yeah.
That creates the problem as well from old stuff that's been there before. That was maybe kind of dealt with up here, but just the energy's got stuck.
Yeah.
So it's just knowing there's sometimes we do need a little bit of other help.
Yeah. And I think that leads very nicely into we want to touch on cancer.
Yeah.
Right. So cancer is a big thing in the world.
Yeah.
It never used to be, but it is now. So what I was looking at. So firstly, we'll just go to the book, and then we can talk some more about it. So cancer is a form of self-destruction, not changing concepts in the area that is affected.
Yeah.
So if we think of cancer, where does cancer comes from? Firstly, it's candida in the body, right? And candida can come from anywhere. It's sugar, it's antibiotics, yeast. So the way I think of it is because candida is a yeast, when that lives in your body and you suddenly create the right environment, it grows like bread and it literally just puffs up. It just blows up. So now we've got to start unpacking where is it in the body.
And that's interesting because also the emotion that's attached to candida is resentment.
Yeah, that's exactly.
Yeah.
And I've been thinking about this a lot as well, because quite a few people come, obviously we do, as healers, we see a lot of clients, and often it's the start of things, and we want to prevent it. But what I'm starting to see as well is we've got to remember what happens in our DNA. And when trauma happens, the way I understand it is trauma, any emotional trauma, physical trauma, anything that happens, the body is weak somewhere. Yeah. And when that trauma happens, that particular organ is what will store that emotion because it's the weakest in the body. But now what happens is it's not just us. We've got our DNA from generations and generations and generations. So we're talking Vikings, we're talking Romans, we're talking, all of that DNA we're carrying down with us, and the amount of wars and all of that trauma. And everything, we're carrying all of that. We've got to make sure that our DNA is as clean and clear as possible, because that energy travels with us. Yeah. So even though we might feel that there's nothing dramatic that has happened in our lives, but suddenly we're sitting with cancer because we're carrying all of that and we've not dealt with it for your ancestral line, and often we need to be dealing with it, and that's where the power comes in. And you want to make sure that you release that, so that the cancer doesn't take a hold on something that's out of your control. Yeah. Which makes sense, because we do carry although it will kind of get weaker and weaker as it goes down the line, it's still there and it still has to be dealt with. Yeah, it's definitely diluted because you're also bringing other DNA. So obviously at conception, you've got two forms of DNA, and that person might not have had that issue and things, it's just, we all know how that works. So, But even looking at it now, I think a lot of mindset has a lot to do with it. I hear so many stories about people who have been diagnosed with cancer, get told they've got 6 months to live, and they die within so many days or weeks of having the news, or right up to the actual 6 months. Yeah. But then on the other hand, you've got people who've got like terminal cancer, but are given a little bit of hope, and they seem to survive like past what they're anticipated to go. So it just makes you wonder, what about mindset? Is mindset a big thing about cancer and how it grows and manifests? Is your mind just shut off when you're told that? Yeah. Because words have power. Absolutely. Frequency. Yeah. If you're told you've got no hope, you switch off. That's exactly. And if we look at Louise Hay, her biggest, where she started her journey is she had vaginal cancer, which I think is really, we could really unpack that. We could probably spend a whole time just sitting on that. But she had vaginal cancer, and the doctors said, you've got this, and
it was quite far advanced, wasn't it?
Quite, it was like stage 4, I think, or stage 3. We'd need to do some investigation. But anyway, so she said to the doctor, she said, look, she knows she manifested it, because if you've brought this to yourself, you can send it back. So she said to the doctor, give me 6 weeks. And what she did is she worked on like mantras and her I am statements and all of that. And yeah, when they retested her, it was gone. 6 weeks, right?
But you've had an experience with that with somebody recently as well that came to you, did you not?
Yes, actually I did. I'll tell you about it. But just to give you an example, I wanted to touch, I know we were going to go into depth with hips, but just to say what she would say on hips, just as a thing. So the hips carries the body in perfect balance, major thrust in moving forward. So then it would either be the right side, which is your physical world, or the left, which would be your spiritual world. And like her statement would be hip hip hooray, there's joy in every day, I am balanced and free. So there's your I am statement, but if you repeated that, your hip problem would go away, because again, it's part of your mantra, right? So yeah.
And that's going on like how it actually works, because a lot of people think, oh, mantras, how do they work?
Yeah.
But there's a scientific behind it. It's because the positivity and the energy that is given into the water in your body, it then creates the changes in the cells. So that's why it allows it to move, and that's why mantras are so powerful.
Yeah.
It's not just woo-woo stuff, it's a lot of people.
Well, that's it. And I mean, even if you look at the placebo effect, so if we took if we took the soul out of medicine and sent it into normal GPs, if they were testing the market, they test with placebos and the people heal either way.
Yeah.
And why is that? It's because of the power of the mind.
Yeah.
They want to heal. They don't want whatever the illness is.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, if there's placebos, then what's the point of taking a pill? You can just control it. Again, choice.
Choice, yeah. But I want to go back to your wee story.
My wee story.
I thought it was quite fascinating.
Yeah. So my client, if you're watching, I'm sharing your story, but I won't mention names. You are protected. So there was a client in December that I'd seen, and she'd come to me and I'd done an MRI scan, and it really looked like she had a really big ball of candida in her stomach, and I was getting the feeling that it was going to be cancer, or was already cancer and was headed that way. And she'd actually been to see me more because she had fibromyalgia. So I'd said to her, well, you know what, the fibromyalgia is really important. We want to deal with it. But you know what? The cancer is more important. And actually, if we unpack it, they actually work hand in hand.
Well, that's just what I was going to say. They kind of go hand in hand with one another. Yeah.
That's exactly. But it's interesting when you think you're going somewhere for healing or help or whatever, and you actually go totally different. So what had happened is I'd given her a whole whack load of information. I'd said to her, you need to do X, Y, and Z, and then let's scan you again. Anyway, this was over December, so obviously a little bit of a challenge because it's Christmas and all of those good things. But then I'd seen her in January, and she had listened to what I had to say. When I scanned her again, that ball of candida was gone. And with the fibromyalgia, strangely enough, she had been almost flat on her back for like months. It was really, you could see when she was walking, like she'd have to sit down every few minutes because she was so tired. When I'd been to see her, I'd had to see her daughter the next day. Anyway, long story. But she had said she was going to go out and take a walk to the shops. And she looked happy about it. And it was easy. And I mean, it was a cold, miserable day. Like most people would have stayed in bed. She actually then had the mind power and the willpower and the happiness and joy to actually just go and do it.
Yeah. Because if you've got fibromyalgia, doing anything can be a bit of a task. But between pain or tiredness and things like that,
it's easier not to do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was amazing. I've not heard from her, so I can only assume things are going well. But for me, that's just validation in the tools that we have as healers. But yeah, that if you've brought it to yourself, you can get rid of it. And it's just sometimes you don't know how, and sometimes you just need to ask a question. Yeah. So we're here for that, you know. So so we're hoping you're going to give us lots of questions after this, especially after our last session.
Yeah, it was amazing the feedback that we got. So drop us some more comments and that, and let us know anything else you would like us to talk about. Yeah. We're quite happy to do that. Yeah. So just drop us a wee message. Let us know what you want us to talk about next. Yeah. If not, you'll need to go by what we decide. Yeah.
Where actually, in fact, I wanted to throw something out there. So let me know if you like the idea. But I thought our next session we could talk about emotional vampires. We could talk about depression and anxiety.
Yeah, that sounds a great one.
And what we could look at is tips and tricks. We could look at the crystals you could carry. We could start looking at vitamins and diet and all of those cool things. So I thought that could be quite a cool thing.
And that's actually great, because anxiety is the underlying cause of every condition. So
Just
when
about.
we can nail the anxiety, then you pretty much can help everything else, because it's the anxiety that fuels everything.
That's exactly. And let us know about the format. Are you happy with us sitting doing this? Obviously we're not going to jump up and down, but if you wanted us to do something or add some extra elements, let us know. Like, we're really excited to hear about your comments, because as you can see, we're going to bring them on. So yeah.
Yep. Till next time.
Yeah.
See you later. Bye.
Bye.